Welcome to the Phil and H Travel Podcast. Is it worth it?
And if you're planning a trip and want the honest, is it worth it verdict before you book, follow the show on Spotify or Apple.
Right, so jump right in. You see a headline online and it says, "The New Berlin."
Oh, the classic trap.
Right. And if you're, a traveler who loves nightlife or just urban culture or finding that one rare city that hasn't been totally sanitized by mass tourism, you get this immediate Pavlovian response.
You instantly picture it.
You really do. You picture like underground art scenes and warehouse parties going until dawn.
Unbelievably cheap rent.
Exactly. Just this effortless, gritty, cool. You picture yourself packing, nothing but black T-shirts and seamlessly riding 24-hour trains between these perfectly curated, edgy neighborhoods.
Right, but it's the ultimate siren song of the travel industry.
Oh, totally.
It conjures up a very, very specific expectation. You expect the grit to be purely aesthetic.
Like Instagram grit.
Exactly. Instagram grit. You want the graffiti to look cool in your photos, but you still fundamentally expect the trains to run perfectly on time.
Right.
And you expect the air to be clean inside the restaurants and the taxi drivers to be strictly regulated by the city.
Yeah, you want the edge, but you absolutely want it with a safety net.
You expect the friction of a gritty city to be entirely superficial.
Right. And then you actually land.
And reality hits.
Hard. You step out of the airport, the heavy summer heat just punches you in the face. A crowd of totally unregulated taxi drivers swarms you before you even reach the curb.
Yep.
And you suddenly realize that glossy travel marketing and geographic logistical reality are two vastly different things.
Which is exactly why we're looking at this specific destination for today's deep dive.
Yes, we are setting our sights squarely on Belgrade, Serbia.
The disconnect between the brochure and the pavement there is fascinating.
It really is. And if you're considering a trip there for 2026, you're not alone. I mean, the city is catching massive buzz right now.
Huge buzz.
Like, Lonely Planet threw it in their Best in Travel 2026 list,
Right.
highlighting as this, ultimate nightlife and value hotspot. The marketing blurbs are all about dancing until dawn on floating river clubs.
The splavovi.
Yeah, and eating incredible food for pennies on the dollar.
And that kind of spotlight, it's incredibly powerful. It takes a destination that was largely a niche, maybe an under-considered city break for Westerners, and thrusts it right into the mainstream.
Especially right now.
Yeah, because travelers are feeling completely priced out of the classic nightlife capitals. I mean, look at Berlin, Amsterdam, Prague.
Oh, they've gotten wildly expensive.
Exactly. So people are desperately searching for the next frontier. They're looking at the Balkans.
But our mission in today's deep dive isn't to just read you a tourism brochure. You are the one actually planning a trip. You're spending your hard-earned money.
Your limited vacation days.
Exactly. You need to know if the hype matches the reality on the ground.
Because the real test isn't just whether the drinks are cheap.
Right. The real test is whether those cheap drinks still feel like a massive win once you factor in the physical reality of the city.
Which, as we'll get into, involves heavy indoor cigarette smoke everywhere you go.
Everywhere. And late-night noise that literally rattles your hotel windows.
And absolutely brutal summer heat.
So we're unpacking a comprehensive document today. It's titled Belgrade Travel Audit, the honest 2026 Is It Worth It verdict.
And it is packed with data.
It really is. We're going to walk you through 11 specific areas of practical due diligence. From navigating airport scams to exactly how much you will spend down to the dollar, and finally, a definitive scoring matrix for different travel styles.
So let's tackle that core contrarian claim right out of the gate.
Let's dismantle this.
Belgrade is not the new Berlin.
It's just not.
Yes, it is drastically cheaper than many Western European capitals. And yes, it has a legitimate world-class late-night culture. But comparing the two sets up a fundamentally false expectation.
Right, so why did tourism boards and travel writers lean so heavily on those lazy comparisons? I mean, to me, it feels like it ultimately sets the traveler up for a profound disappointment.
Well, it's entirely about shorthand, right?
Okay, what do you mean?
Marketing relies on cognitive shortcuts. When a writer compares Belgrade to Berlin, or even Ibiza or Mykonos, which we've actually seen in some of the 2026 coverage, they're desperately trying to communicate two things very quickly.
Budget appeal and epic parties.
Exactly. They want you to immediately grasp the vibe. But the vibe isn't the infrastructure.
that is such a crucial distinction.
The problem is that this shorthand misleads people. When you hear Berlin, you subconsciously expect Berlin's infrastructure.
Right, you expect the same seamless public transit norms.
The same strict indoor smoking bans.
Yeah.
The same polished neighborhood flow where the pedestrian zones are perfectly maintained. Western cities have spent decades and billions of euros building that frictionless environment.
But Belgrade has a completely different history.
Totally different. A different economic reality and a different set of cultural priorities.
It creates a false premise.
Yeah.
If you expect a German transit system in the heart of the Balkans, you are going to spend your entire trip deeply frustrated.
Absolutely.
And this brings up a concept in the audit that I found really fascinating, is the broken city angle.
Yes, I love this part of the research.
The idea here is that Belgrade's appeal doesn't exist in spite of its flaws. Its appeal actually relies on the friction.
That is the crucial paradigm shift you have to make before you book.
Right.
The things people love about Belgrade, like the incredibly dense cafe culture where people just sit for hours, the late-night street food vendors, the stark, brutalist concrete blocks sitting directly next to an old-world Austro-Hungarian facade.
It's what a visual.
It all works precisely because it is unpolished. It hasn't been completely sanitized and packaged for mass tourism yet. It has a legitimate, raw edge.
But I have to push back on the romance of that for a second. Because that exact same edge, that friction, is exactly what will ruin your vacation if you aren't mentally and logistically prepared for it.
That's fair. Friction sounds great in a travel essay.
Exactly. In reality, friction means you're dealing with heavy, inescapable cigarette smoke in a cafe where you just wanted a clean breath of air.
Yeah.
It means brutal summer pavement heat with very little shade. It means constant abrasive city noise.
And patchy trust with local taxis where you constantly have to be on your guard against scams.
It's the difference between observing a city and actually having to live in it for a week.
So to give you a baseline reality check right off the bat, let's look at the financial side of existing in this friction.
Yes, let's talk numbers. The research provides very clear daily budgets for 2026.
So for backpackers, you're looking at a baseline of roughly 45 to 75 US dollars a day.
Okay, that's really solid.
Yeah. Mid-range travelers, so people who want private rooms and sit-down dinners, they jump up to $95 to $170 a day.
So pretty reasonable for Europe.
Right. A family of 4 is looking at $240 to $430 daily.
Okay.
And luxury travelers are spending anywhere from $300 to $650 a day.
So let's anchor those numbers to reality. Because cheap is a very subjective word.
Very.
The reporting shows that hostel dorms sit in the low teens to low 20s in terms of euros or dollars.
Which is great.
Your standard, comfortable, 3-star mid-range hotel room is going to hit that $70 to $160 mark.
But here's the kicker.
Yeah.
If you want genuine 5-star luxury places like the Hyatt, Square 9, or St. 10,
Yeah,
you are paying standard European rates.
you really are.
You're dropping $300, $400 a night. It is not pennies on the dollar at the absolute top end.
Which is precisely why our research issues an immediate skip of signal before we even get into the logistics.
And I found this part so refreshing because it's incredibly blunt.
It is. If you are booking a flight to Belgrade solely because a headline called it the new Berlin, cancel the trip,
Just skip it entirely.
that label is a mirage. You go to Belgrade if you actively want a loud, complex, deeply layered Balkan capital with real nightlife and real, unabashed rough edges.
But if your nervous system requires polished Western European infrastructure to relax, this is not your city.
So if you accept the friction, the very next question is how to mitigate the worst of it. And that comes down entirely to when you choose to go.
The calendar dictates your entire experience in this city.
The data is unanimous on the booking windows, right?
Completely unanimous. The absolute best months to visit are late April, May, September, and October.
The classic shoulder seasons. But explain why it matters so much more here than, say, in Paris or London.
Because in Belgrade, the weather dictates how much of the friction you have to physically endure.
Oh, that makes sense.
In the spring, you get to utilize the outdoor cafes. The temperatures are actually walkable. And crucially, you avoid the massive influx of summer stag party clusters that descend on the nightlife.
Oof, yeah, you definitely want to dodge those.
And then autumn keeps the city lively, but strips away the heat.
Right.
During these shoulder months, the key neighborhoods like Kalamegdan near the fortress, Nez Mikhailova, the pedestrian zone, Dorkol, Vrykar, they become highly functional for a normal traveler. You can walk everywhere.
And most importantly, sitting outside at a cafe naturally reduces your exposure to the indoor cigarette smoke.
Which is a massive issue we will dive into deeply.
We absolutely will. And then we have to talk about the absolute worst months, July and August.
Oh, yeah.
I want to dwell on this because I think travelers often underestimate heat.
They definitely do.
We look at a weather app, we see a high of 90 degrees, and we think, oh, I'll wear shorts, it'll be fine.
But the research pulls actual granular weather data for June and July of 2026. This isn't a breezy beach, 90 degrees.
No, it's not.
We are talking about active, dangerous heat warnings in a concrete basin. High UV indices and forecasts with daily highs routinely climbing into the mid to high 90s Fahrenheit.
But the metric that really stands out in the audit is the concept of the tropical night.
Yes.
Explain a tropical night, because that sounds lovely, like you're in Hawaii holding a drink with an umbrella in it. But in an urban context, it's a nightmare.
It is a total nightmare. In meteorology, a tropical night means the ambient temperature simply does not drop enough overnight to offer any physical relief.
Wow.
In Belgrade, you have dense architecture, a lot of concrete, and a lot of brutalist structures. Those buildings absorb the 95-degree heat all day long.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Yeah, when the sun goes down, they radiate that heat right back into the streets. So at midnight, it might still feel like 85 degrees with high humidity.
Which completely changes the nature of your vacation.
Completely. Summer daytime sightseeing in Belgrade essentially becomes a tax you pay.
Yes. It's a physical toll you endure. You cannot book a summer trip because you read that the famous floating river clubs are open and then expect to do a breezy 6-hour walking tour of the Kalemegdan Fortress at high noon.
You will be miserable.
You will be seeking out air conditioning immediately.
And this brings up the reality of the crowds.
Right.
When we talk about summer crowds in Belgrade, we aren't talking about the typical tourist crowds. We aren't talking about throngs of people with cameras blocking a famous painting in a museum.
What are we talking about?
We're talking about heat crowds, and specifically nightlife crowds.
Okay.
The entire city's rhythm shifts. Areas like Savamala and the riverfront zones become incredibly dense and energetic at night because that is literally the only time it's comfortable to exist outside.
But if your hotel happens to face the wrong street in one of those zones, that incredible midnight energy becomes an absolute nightmare for your sleep schedule.
Oh, absolutely. You have hundreds of people outside your window until 4 a.m.
And you can't just close the window if your room doesn't have great AC.
Exactly. Now, the summer dictates that the club season pushes everything to the river venues, which are open air and fantastic. But it's worth noting the inverse.
Which is what?
In the winter, all that intense nightlife moves indoors.
Right.
And if you are sensitive to smoke, moving indoors in Serbia is a major, major comfort deal breaker.
So the calendar drives the weather drives the crowds, and the crowds dictate the noise.
And that's the chain reaction.
So if the city is that loud and that hot, where you choose to sleep has to be the single most important decision of the trip. How do you find a room that actually works?
Well, you have to understand the microgeography of the neighborhoods.
Okay.
The research outlines them beautifully, and each caters to a completely different tolerance for chaos.
Let's break them down.
Stari Grad, the old town, is the natural default for almost every first-time visitor. You look at a map, you see it's right next to the Kalemegdan Fortress and the main pedestrian drag, Nez Mihailova, and you book it.
Right, because it looks like the geographic bullseye.
It is the bullseye for sightseeing, but central absolutely does not always mean best value or best sleep.
Usually the opposite.
In fact, it often means the opposite.
Right.
Then you have Rakar. This is slightly further out from the fortress, but it's a much calmer residential base.
Okay.
It's leafy, it has great cafes, and it's built for actual living rather than just partying.
And what about Dorkol? That's the neighborhood that constantly comes up in the guides. What is the reality of Dorkol?
Dorkol gives you the central access of Stari Grad, but with much more authentic neighborhood texture.
Oh, nice.
You find the third wave coffee shops there, the newer restaurants, the boutiques. It has fewer obvious tourist traps.
And then there's Zemun.
Zemun is completely distinct. It's out by the river. It was historically part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, so the architecture looks totally different.
So it feels like a different place.
Yeah, it feels like a separate, quieter town altogether.
So synthesizing all that into actual booking advice.
Right.
If you are a backpacker, you can be a bit loose with your dates as long as it isn't a peak summer weekend.
True.
But if you are a mid-range traveler, you cannot just show up. You need to book weeks in advance to secure a place that is both central and quiet.
Absolutely essential.
And families should completely write off the main nightlife zones. Do not book Stari Grad or Skadarlia with a stroller.
No, target Vrakar or the absolute quietest pockets of Dorkol.
Digital nomads also need to be incredibly careful. If you are signing a month-long lease, you cannot trust photos.
Photos don't show noise.
Exactly. You need to run a serious test of a neighborhood's noise levels and the local cafe's smoke levels before committing.
And for the luxury travelers, this is critical. Do not assume a boutique label means the windows are soundproofed.
Yeah.
You need established properties where the heavy-duty air conditioning is confirmed in the recent reviews.
Okay, let's put ourselves in the shoes of the traveler.
Okay.
You've navigated the booking, you understand the heat, you pack your bags, you fly in. This brings us to the moment of arrival at Belgrade Nikola Tesla Airport.
The first test.
And I want to spend time here because the research sets up a fascinating stark contrast between what is marketed as free and what is actually a massive hassle.
This is a massive logistical update for 2025 and 2026. The public transit system in Belgrade underwent a radical change.
Right.
Regular city buses and trams are now reported as free for use.
Now, when you read that as a budget traveler, your eyes light up.
Of course.
Free public transit for my entire trip. That's incredible.
It sounds like an absolute game changer.
But there is a massive trip-defining asterisk when it comes to the airport specifically.
Right. While the regular city buses are free, the dedicated A1 airport shuttle still costs about 400 Serbian dinars, which translates to roughly $4.
But this is where I want to offer an analogy to really drive home what it feels like to land here.
Let's hear it.
Arriving at this airport is like a video game boss fight right at level 1.
That is so accurate.
The city itself, once you have successfully penetrated it and dropped your bags at the hotel, is incredibly cheap and easy to move around because of those free buses.
But surviving the airport taxi gauntlet and the transit confusion determines your entire emotional baseline for the capital.
The arrival logistics are universally cited as the first major friction point.
Yes. Technically, as a budget traveler, you could stubbornly refuse to pay the $4.
I mean, you could.
You could walk out and find the regular free bus 72 heading to Zeleni Venac, or the free bus 600 toward Beograd Center.
But let's walk through the reality of doing that. You have just flown in, maybe off a long layover.
You're exhausted.
You have luggage. It's one of those 90-degree summer days. Or worse, you are arriving at 11:30 at night.
Right.
You are trying to navigate a standard crowded city bus that makes multiple local stops. You're trying to balance suitcases while standing.
And you're trying to decipher a transit map in a new language.
Written in Cyrillic.
Cake.
In the dark.
You are going to deeply, deeply regret choosing the free option to save $4.
Oh, without a doubt.
Exactly. The physical toll is rarely worth the financial savings, which is why the vast majority of travelers eventually abandon the bus idea and opt for a taxi.
And this is where the actual danger lies.
You cannot simply walk out of the terminal doors and accept a ride from the friendly-looking drivers approaching you on the curb.
No.
That is a well-documented, almost guaranteed recipe for severe overcharging.
We've all been there. You're tired. A guy says taxi. You say yes. And suddenly a $15 ride costs you 80 euros.
The safety guidance across all our sources is unanimous and rigid on this point.
What is the rule?
You must use official channels. Use the official taxi desk inside the terminal where they give you a voucher with a set price zone.
Okay, so you lock in the price.
Yes. Or prearrange a hotel transfer. Or use vetted local app-based services once you have a data connection. Do not, under any circumstances, negotiate with terminal touts.
It is the classic travel whiplash. Your arrival feels so smooth and sophisticated if you arranged a clean transfer in advance and your hotel is centrally located.
But it feels incredibly chaotic and hostile if you land late, get scammed by a fake taxi, lose $50.
And then finally arrive at your room only to discover your window faces a street where a club's base is going to sump until dawn.
Which naturally leads us to look at exactly what kind of room you are getting when you finally unlock the door.
Yes, let's do a deeper dive into the specific tiers of accommodation, because where you stay in Belgrade fundamentally dictates the version of the city you will experience.
Let's start at the budget tier.
The backpackers. You are looking at roughly $12 to $35 a night.
That's a great price.
If you are in this bracket, you want to be in Dorkol, Central Starigrad, or the dense pockets of the Old Town.
Right.
You're looking at places like Balkan Sol Hostel or Up Hostel, or maybe you want something unique like the Arkabarka floating hostel out on the water.
Now, the monetary value in this tier is excellent compared to Western Europe.
Unbeatable.
But we have to rigorously analyze the trade-offs. A cheap, highly central hostel is going to be incredibly social. That's great for making friends, but it intrinsically means it will be noisy. You are placing yourself right in the epicenter of the nightlife.
And what about the floating hostels? I mean, they sound amazing. I'm sleeping on the Danube.
They are idyllic in concept. Waking up on the water is beautiful.
Well,
But floating or outlying hostels introduce immediate daily logistical friction.
oh, I see.
Every single time you want to go into the historical center, get a cheap meal, or see a museum, you have to figure out a bus route or pay for a taxi.
You are trading central convenience for a novelty aesthetic.
Exactly. You're trading sleep for location, or location for novelty.
Let's move up to the mid-range tier. This is your classic couple on a city break, or a solo traveler with a bit more disposable income.
You are looking at $70 to $160 a night.
You're looking at boutique spots, design hotels, maybe places in the 120 to 130 range. So we're talking about places like Hotel Lumiere, Mama Shelter, Nobel Design Hotel.
In this tier, your neighborhood strategy is everything.
How so?
If your trip is only 2 days, maybe you tolerate the street noise and stay right in Storograd to maximize sightseeing.
Sure.
If you want phenomenal restaurants right downstairs but slightly less chaos, you pick Dorkal.
Okay.
If guaranteed sleep and quiet morning cafe culture matter more to you than walking out your door directly into a museum plaza, you choose Vrokar.
The perpetual trade-off in Belgrade's mid-range is central location versus acoustic piece.
That is exactly it.
Then we have the family tier. This usually runs $90 to $220 a night, mostly for apartments or larger suites.
And this is where strategy isn't just helpful, it's mandatory.
The research is explicit. Families cannot wing it.
No, they cannot.
They must prioritize Verkar or the absolute quietest residential pockets of Dorkal.
And you cannot just look at the price tag and the glossy photos online. Families have to demand specific, confirmed amenities before booking.
What are we talking about here?
You need to verify there is a working elevator, which is not a guarantee in older historical buildings.
Oh, a stroller up 4 flights of stairs is awful.
Right. You absolutely need confirmed heavy-duty air conditioning in the summer.
Non-negotiable.
You need to hunt for strict smoke-free policies, which are rare. And ideally, you want kitchen access.
Why is the kitchen so important? The food is cheap. Shouldn't families just eat out?
Because of the smoke.
Ah,
If you don't have a kitchen, you are forced to take your children into smoke-filled restaurants for every single meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
that's a great point. Having a kitchen gives you a sanctuary where you actually control the air quality.
The ultimate trap for a family in Belgrade is booking what looks like a Starry-grad bargain and then spending the entire vacation carrying a heavy stroller up 4 flights of stairs and trying to get toddlers to sleep over the sound of an open-air nightclub.
That sounds absolutely miserable.
Yeah.
Finally, let's look at the luxury tier. We are talking $200 to $400, sometimes more, per night.
You are looking at the big international brands, the Hyatt, the Hilton, or local luxury spots like Square 9 or St. 10, Metropole Palace, the Bristol, Hotel Moskva.
And this brings us to a concept in the research that is vital to understand. They call it the ultimate luxury trap.
Yes, let's really unpack this.
Because if I'm dropping $400 a night in a city where a beer costs $3,
Yeah.
I expect perfection.
And that expectation is exactly the trap.
Okay, explain that.
In a lot of Western European capitals, say Zurich or parts of London, when you pay for a 5-star hotel, you are paying for an entire curated experience that extends out into the immediate neighborhood.
Right. The streets around the hotel are immaculately swept. The air feels clean, the traffic is heavily managed, and the noise ordinances are strictly enforced. You're buying a zone of tranquility.
But in Belgrade,
In Belgrade, your 5-star hotel choice does not change the city outside its front doors.
that is such a critical point.
It really is. You can have the highest thread count Egyptian cotton sheets in the world. You can have a marble bathroom and a concierge who knows your name. But a luxury rating does not insulate you from the reality of the street.
Not at all.
The absolute second you step out of that pristine, air-conditioned lobby, you are still hitting the same cloud of cigarette smoke, the same aggressive, chaotic traffic, the same construction noise, and the same 90-degree heat as the backpacker staying in a $12 dorm.
You are buying a beautiful room. You're not buying a protective bubble around your vacation.
Which is why the luxury value here is considered highly uneven.
You are getting a world-class interior for less than you'd pay in Paris, but the exterior environment remains entirely unregulated.
Unregulated is the perfect word to describe it. And that lack of regulation bleeds right into our next major topic.
Which is?
Food, groceries, and etiquette. Because the food scene is arguably one of Belgrade's absolute strongest value propositions. The culinary culture is rich, heavy, and extremely affordable.
It really is.
But there is a massive lingering cloud over it. Literally.
Let's lay out the culinary baseline first to understand why people love it.
Okay.
The pricing here is a major draw. A trip to a local bakery, a Pekara, for breakfast is a cultural institution.
And it will only run you $2 to $5 for fresh, incredible pastries. A proper espresso or coffee is just $2 to $4.
And getting a traditional burek.
Oh, I love burek.
That amazing, flaky, savory pastry filled with meat or cheese, that is a massive filling meal for just $2 to $5.
It is phenomenally affordable. Even if you want a casual grill plate, grabbing some savapi on the street, you are looking at $7 to $15.
If you want to sit down for a traditional kafana meal, maybe some rich Serbian bean stew, some grilled meats, with a local drink, you are looking at $12 to $25.
Even a proper, highly rated mid-range sit-down dinner with service is only $30 to $55.
Local beer is $2.50 to $5. Cocktails in the higher-end mixology bars are $8 to $14.
And if you are doing a grocery run to stock that apartment kitchen we mentioned, a simple haul for breakfast and snacks is just $8 to $18.
As for etiquette, tipping is generally expected to be around 10%.
Though you should always check the bill to see if a service charge is already built in and then round up appropriately.
Right.
The city also has these really distinct culinary zones, right?
Yes, the geography of food is very defined here.
Let's walk through them.
Skadarlia is your classic cobblestone bohemian zone. It's heavily touristed, but it's where you go for traditional food, massive portions, and live acoustic music right at your table.
Dorkol is the contrast to that.
Exactly. Dorkol is where you find the modern third-wave cafes, the vegan spots, and the newer, innovative chefs.
And Savamala.
Savamala is perfect for transitioning straight from a modern dinner into the late-night bar scene.
And Zimun.
Zimun offers these fantastic, long, lazy riverside meals with a lot of fresh fish.
It all sounds incredible.
It is.
But here's where we hit the absolute biggest warning of this entire deep dive.
The deal breaker.
This is the thing that can literally ruin the trip for certain people. The smoke deal breaker.
The research drives this home repeatedly, almost frantically. Smokers are everywhere.
It is a deeply entrenched cultural staple. It is not a fringe activity.
No. Visit Belgrade, the official tourism resource for the city, explicitly warns travelers that smoking is legally allowed in many restaurants, cafes, and indoor businesses.
I have to point out the absolute illusion of the non-smoking section in these places.
Oh, the illusion is wild.
If you are coming from a country where indoor smoking was banned 20 years ago, you might think, oh, I'll just ask for the non-smoking section.
Right.
You walk into a restaurant, they ask your preference, and they seat you. But there are no physical walls.
None.
There is no heavy-duty air filtration system separating the zones.
Yeah.
It's literally just a different table in the exact same enclosed room.
The smoke simply drifts over.
Exactly. So I want to push you on this. How does a modern traveler actually navigate this? What if you have asthma? What if you are pregnant? What if you have kids? How do you survive a city where the air indoors is constantly thick with smoke?
It requires highly proactive defense. You cannot be spontaneous.
Which is a bummer for a vacation.
It is. If you just wander down a street and pop into a cute cafe because it looks nice, you will almost certainly be exposed to heavy smoke.
So what's the solution?
The research highlights the absolute necessity of using specific crowdsourced resources, like the website nosmokingmap.com, which tracks venues in Belgrade.
So you have to map your meals like a military operation.
You do. You have to deliberately search for verified, genuinely smoke-free venues before you get hungry.
Did the data actually name any?
It names a few reliable safe havens, places like Fit Bar, Red Bread, Delicent, Endorphin, and April Bar.
Okay, good to know.
If smoke is a genuine health issue for you, or even just a massive annoyance, you must pin these on your map in advance.
Because if you don't, what are your options?
Your strategy devolves into relying purely on warm weather so you can eat exclusively on outdoor terraces.
But if it rains...
Or if you visit in the winter, those terraces close or get enclosed with plastic tarps, which essentially turns them into giant smoking tents.
Wow. At that point, you are retreating to shopping mall food courts just to breathe clean air, or you are eating every meal inside your rented apartment.
And the cost of the smoke isn't just your lung capacity.
Right.
It's ruined clothes that reek of ash, stinging eyes, and meals cut short because you just can't sit there anymore. it drastically alters how you experience the hospitality of the city.
Which segues perfectly into looking at the macro-level daily budgets.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about the prices of individual pastries and hotels, but we need to synthesize this line by line.
Right. What is the actual financial reality of existing in Belgrade for a day?
Let's build the budgets, starting with our backpackers. The overall target here is $45 to $75 a day.
How does a backpacker actually hit that?
Well, you are spending $15 to $35 on your hostel bed. You're spending $12 to $25 on food, mostly bakeries and street grills.
You're spending $0 to $8 on transport, strictly assuming you master the free city buses and completely avoid taxis.
Sites and museums will cost $5 to $15, and you have $10 to $25 left for nightlife.
The research notes that roughly $60 a day is a very comfortable, sustainable target for this tier.
But, and this is the massive but,
Go on.
this budget only works under strict conditions. It works if you eat at bakeries, utilize the free walking zones, and use the free transit.
Right.
It completely falls apart and blows out if you start taking late-night taxis because you missed the last bus, or if you try to book a bed on a peak summer weekend at the last minute and have to pay premium rates.
Next is the midrange traveler. The target is $95 to $170 a day.
Accommodation takes up a huge chunk, 45 to 90 of that.
Food and coffee jump significantly to $30 to $55 because now you are sitting down for service.
Taxes and airport transfers get a dedicated $10 to $25 allocation.
Museums take another $10 to $25, and nightlife or nicer cocktails take $15 to $40.
At this specific tier, Belgrade looks incredibly attractive compared to cities like Paris or Vienna. You are getting a lot of aesthetic value for that $150.
But there are specific overrun triggers.
What triggers the overrun?
Well, if you start ordering those $14 craft cocktails, or if you demand a premium air-conditioned room because the heat is unbearable,
Sure.
or if you constantly take taxis because your hotel is in the wrong district and you refuse to walk in the 90-degree heat, you will blow past that $170 ceiling incredibly quickly.
The gap between Belgrade and Berlin closes fast when you start demanding Berlin-level comforts.
It really does. Now let's look at the families. 2 adults, 2 children.
$240 to $430 a day total.
Accommodation is $100 to $220 for a large apartment. Food is $70 to $130 to feed 4 mouths.
Transport is $15 to $50. Activities take $25 to $70.
And crucially, families need a daily buffer of $30 to $60 just for what we call heat management.
Heat management. Okay, what is that?
Yes, buying constant bottled water, stopping for ice cream twice a day because everyone is melting, or paying for an air-conditioned taxi simply because the kids physically cannot walk another block in the sun.
That makes a lot of sense. Over a 3-night city break, a family is easily dropping $800 to $1,500 on the ground.
That's a real vacation budget. To get good value out of that, families have to be strategic.
Like focusing their time on the fortress walks early in the morning, utilizing the massive riverside parks, and relying on their apartment.
Exactly. What does bad value look like for a family?
Bad value is trying to push through the July afternoon heat, paying for sit-down meals in smoke-heavy restaurants where the kids are miserable, and suffering in noisy central rooms where no one sleeps.
You spend $1,000 to be exhausted and irritated.
Then we have the luxury tier, $300 to $650 a day.
$200 to $400 on the hotel. $80 to $180 on incredible high-end food and wine.
$25 to $80 on private transfers to entirely avoid the taxi stress. And $50 to $150 on premium activities or private guides.
And as we discussed with the luxury trap, the value here is highly subjective. You are buying a beautiful interior experience, but you cannot buy your way out of the city's friction.
Finally, let's look at the digital nomads, because Belgrade is heavily marketed to remote workers.
This is a monthly budget, $1,600 to $3,000 a month.
Rent is $750 to $1,600 for a solid apartment. Food is $450 to $800. Cafe culture and co-working spaces will run you $150 to $350.
Local transport is $100 to $250, and nightlife is $150 to $500.
On paper, it is a phenomenal value proposition for a nomad who wants access to the Balkans and loves late-night culture, but it is highly risky.
Why is it risky?
Because your productivity is on the line. If your work requires focus, early morning meetings, and a clear head, that productivity will be entirely derailed by the constant street noise, the inability to work in cafes because of the indoor smoke, and the exhausting summer heat.
So, while all these numbers look really appealing and mathematically sound on a spreadsheet, hitting them in reality requires dotting some very specific, trip-ruining landmines.
Yes, our research actually outlines 3 named logistics traps. Let's break these down because this is where the rubber meets the road.
Trap number 1 is the free transport paid mistake trap.
This one is so deceptive, the mechanism is totally psychological.
How so?
A budget traveler reads a blog post saying Belgrade's buses and trams are totally free in 2026. They mentally check the transport box as solved.
They go into their budget spreadsheet and they type a 0 for transit. They think they've beaten the system.
But the lived reality is entirely different. Yes, regular city transit is free. But as we discussed with the arrival, that free transit is practically useless when you're vulnerable.
If you arrive at the airport late at night with heavy suitcases, the free bus is a nightmare.
And the trap springs the moment you panic. You realize the free bus isn't viable, you are sweating, you are tired, so you just grab the nearest taxi without checking the official desk.
And you get scammed.
Exactly. So instead of a $0 bus ride, or even a normal $20 to $40 official transfer, you're suddenly out $60 or $80 on night 1. Your transport budget is blown immediately.
The only fix here is rigid discipline. You have to accept that you will pay for the official A1 shuttle or a vetted taxi and only use the free buses when you are unburdened during the day.
Trap number 2 is the smoke-free assumption trap. We touched on the health aspects, but let's look at it as a logistical trap. The mechanism here is cultural projection.
Cultural projection. Okay, what does that mean in this context?
Western European or North American travelers unconsciously assume that indoor air quality regulations will feel somewhat similar to what they have back home. They assume the progress is global.
Right, you think. It's 2026. I'm in Europe. Surely I won't be eating my pasta in a thick cloud of Marlboro Reds.
But the lived reality is incredibly jarring. You find a beautifully designed, highly rated cafe on Instagram. It looks perfect.
But it becomes completely unusable for a non-smoker in the winter when the doors are shut and 50 people are smoking inside.
The cost of this trap isn't directly monetary, though dry cleaning bills definitely add up. The real cost is your health, respiratory discomfort, and constant low-level frustration.
You spend your vacation annoyed.
The people most affected are obviously non-smokers, families, pregnant travelers, and anyone with asthma.
The fix requires aggressive pre-planning. You cannot wing it. You must prioritize terraces, map out the rare smoke-free venues, and rigorously read recent reviews before booking a table.
And honestly, if cigarette smoke is a hard physical boundary for you, this trap alone is a reason to skip the city entirely.
And trap number 3 is the New Berlin noise trap.
The mechanism here is the traveler's desire to be close to the action.
You read the guides praising the underground warehouse venues, the floating splavovi, the intense late-night club culture in neighborhoods like Savamala or Skagarlija, and you think, I want my hotel right in the middle of that.
I want to stick out my door into the party.
But let's dwell on the lived reality of that decision. Being close to the action is fantastic at midnight when you are out with a drink in your hand.
It is a living psychological nightmare at 4 a.m. when you're trying to sleep.
You aren't just dealing with muffled music. You are dealing with heavy structural bass that literally vibrates the bed frames.
You're dealing with street noise, late taxis honking, people yelling on the sidewalks, and other guests returning to your hotel loudly after the clubs close. It is relentless.
The cost here is brutal. You are wasting $100 a night on a room you physically cannot sleep in.
You are exhausted the next day, which ruins your sightseeing. And you might ultimately have to spend more money to switch hotels mid-trip just to get some rest.
The fix is simple geography. Accept a minor commute. Stay in a freight car or a quiet residential slice of Dorkol.
Treat soundproofing as a non-negotiable booking requirement. Read the negative reviews of a hotel specifically looking for noise complaints.
And simply take a $3 taxi to the nightlife. Do not sleep where you party.
Understanding these traps naturally shifts our focus to the broader concept of safety, solo travel, and general comfort in the city.
When people hear the Balkans, they often have outdated 90s-era anxieties about safety. But the research reorders the perceived risks of visiting Belgrade in a really helpful, realistic way.
Yeah, let's clear this up immediately. Violent crime targeting normal tourists in Belgrade is exceptionally low. It is safer in that regard than many major Western cities.
The actual risk hierarchy, the things that will actually mess up your day, looks like this.
Number 1, by a massive landslide, is taxi pricing and scams.
Number 2 is pickpockets in dense, busy tourist areas or crowded buses.
Number 3 is nightlife judgment, meaning getting yourself dangerously intoxicated and wandering into a bad situation late at night.
And number 4 is disruption from political protests or aggressive football crowds, which are usually localized and easily avoided.
This hierarchy should absolutely dictate your behavior.
For solo travelers, the city is very workable, but it rewards planning. The guidance for solo female travelers is particularly specific. You have to treat Belgrade like a dense, late-night metropolis, not a sleepy, quaint European town.
Right. Choose accommodation with strong, recent safety reviews. Stay in central, well-lit areas like Storograd, Dorkol, or Vrekar.
Control your transport after midnight. Don't just decide to walk home 2 miles in the dark.
The research makes a great point here. Just because the vibe is everyone is out late and having fun, that shouldn't override your standard big city safety logic.
Do not wander down unfamiliar, poorly lit riverside paths alone at 3 a.m. just because you just left a great club on the water.
And then we have to look at families. How does this specific environment feel for a family traveling with young children?
I think the most accurate analogy is that Belgrade operates like a theme park built specifically for adults.
By day, it's totally manageable. You can take the kids around the massive Kalemegdan fortress, let them run on the grass, walk down the Nez Mihailova pedestrian street, visit the incredible St. Sava temple.
It feels safe, grand, and historic. But the actual enemies of a family vacation here aren't criminals or pickpockets.
The enemies are environmental.
Exactly. The enemies are the extreme summer heat baking the concrete, the ubiquitous indoor cigarette smoke making restaurants unpleasant, and the sheer abrasive noise of the city.
The nightlife areas aren't inherently dangerous. They're just fundamentally mismatched to small children who need clean air, manageable temperatures, and early bedtimes.
The scams you need to protect your family from are unlicensed taxis overcharging you, occasional fake police approaches, poor currency exchange rates at shady kiosks, and street distraction techniques in the crowded center.
The ultimate comfort verdict is that the city is highly manageable for alert adults. It is very strong for nightlife-focused travelers, but it is highly uneven and potentially deeply frustrating for families.
Which brings us to the moment of truth. Let's weigh the absolute best moments against the honest disappointments.
Let's start with the highs, because when Belgrade works, it is truly magnetic. Best moment number 1 from the research Kalemegdan Fortress near sunset.
It's completely free, which is a rarity in Europe these days. You stand on the walls and it gives you this sweeping strategic view of exactly where the Sava and Danube rivers collide.
It perfectly explains why the city exists where it does, why it was fought over by so many empires.
And it has this imposing, heavy historical weight. It isn't just pretty in a polished, Disney-fied way. It feels real.
Best moment number 2, the low-cost food day. This is the financial high.
You wake up, grab a fresh $2 bakery breakfast, get a phenomenal craft coffee in Dorkol, walk the city, have a massive traditional kafana dinner with grilled meats, grab some late drinks at a cool bar, and your total daily spend is still drastically laughably less than a standard Tuesday night out in London or Paris.
Best moment number 3 is what the researchers call the architectural whiplash.
I really love this concept.
Explain what that feels like on the ground.
It is the visual manifestation of the city's friction. You are walking down an old, ornate, cobblestone street that looks like 19th century Vienna.
Okay.
You turn the corner, and suddenly you are staring directly at a massive, imposing, gray, socialist, brutalist block of concrete.
Wow.
And then you turn another corner, and you are at a sleek, modern riverside club with neon lights. That stark, unfiltered, jarring contrast is the actual legitimate reason to go to Belgrade. You cannot manufacture that kind of history.
And best moment number 4 is the unregulated nightlife. The splavovi on the river, the massive underground warehouse spaces.
It feels less packaged, less corporate, and less restricted than many other European capitals. You feel a sense of freedom.
But I have to push back here. I have to play devil's advocate.
Go ahead.
Unregulated sounds incredibly cool when you are reading a Lonely Planet blurb in your living room. It sounds like pure freedom.
It does.
But at 3 a.m., when your ears are violently ringing from the decibel level, you cannot find a safe taxi to take you home. Your clothes absolutely reek of stale smoke, and your lungs physically burn from breathing indoor ash for 4 hours. Is unregulated actually a win?
Or is it just exhausting?
Exactly.
That is the crucial pivot into the honest disappointments. The research lists 3 major ones that echo your exact point. First, the concept of value in Belgrade is no longer synonymous with cheap.
The baseline is cheap, yes. But once you anchor your stay with a $120 central hotel so you can sleep, and you start buying $12 cocktails in the nicer bars, Belgrade rapidly turns into a normal, expensive European spend. The budget illusion vanishes.
Disappointment, too, is the indoor smoke. We've beaten this drum, but it bears repeating. It isn't just a minor annoyance that you can wave away with your hand.
For a massive segment of modern travelers, it is the entire verdict. It literally ruins the trip.
And disappointment 3 is the summer heat. It is significantly harsher, more oppressive, and more draining than those bright, sunny, saturated Instagram photos suggest.
So if the friction we have just spent all this time detailing sounds like too much to handle, if the smoke, the noise, and the heat sound miserable to you, the research provides practical alternatives.
How do you use other cities as a litmus test for your own travel personality? The data gives us 2 distinct paths.
Alternative 1 is staying within the country but changing the vibe completely. You go north to Novi Sad.
If you want the Serbian culture, the food, the history, but at a much, much calmer pace, you go here. It is highly walkable, the stress level is vastly lower, and there is far less cultural pressure to participate in that intense 4 a.m. late-night culture.
The financial difference is notable too. Novi Sad is usually $10 to $40 less per day for a similar level of comfort compared to Belgrade.
What do you lose? You lose the massive, chaotic, big capital energy, and you lose the immediate international flight access. But you gain an enormous amount of peace.
It is the perfect alternative for couples or families who want the Balkan culture without the extreme intensity.
Alternative 2 is Budapest. This is for the traveler who hears our Belgrade warnings about smoke and scams and says, "No thanks, I want polish. I want a vacation, not a gauntlet."
Budapest gives you massive, classic, grand city break infrastructure. You get the famous thermal baths, a huge inventory of hotels at every conceivable price point, and a very defined, clean, easy-to-follow visitor path.
But you absolutely pay for that polish. Budapest is roughly $30 to $100 more per day for a mid-range traveler compared to Belgrade.
It is vastly better for families, it is better for first-timers in Eastern Europe, and it is mandatory for people who cannot tolerate cigarette smoke.
But it loses on raw budget value. And because it is so polished, it suffers from its own severe overtourism issues. You are trading grit for crowds.
The synthesis here is a brilliant test.
Hmm.
If you listen to the description of Budapest, the thermal baths, the grand cafes, the clean visitor path, and you think, yes, that sounds like a proper relaxing vacation, then you will absolutely hate Belgrade.
Which brings us to the culmination of all this data. The final is it worth it matrix. We are going to rapid-fire score this city out of 10 for each specific travel style, synthesizing everything we've discussed.
Let's do it. First up, the backpacker.
The research gives this an 8 out of 10. You are spending $45 to $75 a day. It is absolutely worth it for the raw energy, the cheap bakery food, the social hostels, and the free transit, as long as you can handle the grit.
Next, the mid-range traveler.
7 out of 10. This is anchored by that $120 hotel room. It is worth it, but only if you plan meticulously. You cannot wing it. You have to nail the location, staying in Dorkol or Varakar, to perfectly balance the culinary value with your absolute need for a good night's sleep.
The family.
This score drops significantly to a 5 out of 10, spending $240 to $430 a day. A stroller-heavy summer trip with toddlers in July is a documented, expensive mistake.
The extreme heat, the lack of pedestrian shade, and the inescapable indoor smoke make it far too hostile for young kids to enjoy.
The luxury traveler also scores a mediocre 5 out of 10, spending $300 to $650 a day.
You can buy magnificent hotel rooms with incredible service, but there is no five-star bubble waiting for you on the sidewalks. The minute you walk out the door, the friction remains exactly the same.
And finally, the digital nomad. This is a fascinating split score. It is an 8 out of 10 if you are highly adaptable, don't mind noise, and want to maximize that $1,600 to $3,000 a month value.
But the score plummets to a 4 out of 10 if you are smoke sensitive, because trying to conduct professional work in cafes filled with cigarette smoke will completely break your productivity.
So synthesizing all the data, the final overall verdict, Belgrade is intensely worth it for repeat Europe visitors who are, frankly, bored of the highly polished, predictable, expensive Western capitals. It is for people seeking raw experience.
But do not go if a lazy New Berlin headline did all your thinking for you.
Exactly. You have to know what you are buying.
Which leaves us with one final, provocative thought to mull over. It's the ultimate paradox of the cool city.
We sit here for an hour and we critique the smoke, the noise, the rogue taxis, and the crumbling concrete.
But if Belgrade eventually bows to international pressure, if it strictly bans all indoor smoking, if it heavily regulates the noise of the splavovi, if it completely sanitizes its streets and standardizes its taxis to appease Western families and luxury tourists, does it lose the very soul and the friction that made it the exciting, raw alternative in the first place?
It is the gentrification dilemma applied to an entire European capital. When we, as international travelers, demand that a foreign city completely alter itself to accommodate our specific imported comforts, are we actually asking it to destroy the exact thing that made it special to begin with?
Something to think deeply about before you book those tickets. If this gave you the honest verdict you needed, follow the show. New episodes drop every day.
That is the honest verdict from Phil and H.